The human ship docked with the alien palace station without sound. It was the largest structure Elias had ever seen, stretching like a silver moon across space. Layers of curved metal and glowing symbols covered its surface, each line carrying meaning he could not read. This was the heart of the Valerian Empire, one of the most powerful civilizations in the known galaxy. Elias was not a diplomat, not a soldier of rank, and not someone important. He was a systems technician, trained to map corridors, repair internal sensors, and make sure human equipment did not interfere with alien technology. His job was simple: walk, scan, record, and leave no trace. He reminded himself of that as he moved through the quiet hallways. The floors were smooth and warm under his boots. The walls shifted colors slowly, responding to movement and sound. Everything here felt alive in a calm and controlled way. Valerians valued silence and order. Even their palace guards stood motionless like statues, their armor blending into the walls. Elias followed the map on his wrist display. Section A-17. Internal Maintenance Wing. Authorized access only. He had clearance for most non-royal areas. At least, that was what command had told him. He stopped in front of a door shaped like a tall arc. No warning symbols, no guard. The marker said, "Auxiliary Storage." Good, Elias muttered to himself. He pressed the panel. The door opened without resistance. The moment he stepped inside, he knew something was wrong. The room was large, open, and filled with soft light. Curtains made of thin, glowing fabric floated gently in the air as if moved by a slow breath. The walls were not bare metal. They were decorated. Elias froze. Pictures covered the walls. Not alien art, not symbols, not stars. Humans. He took a slow step forward, his heart beginning to pound. The nearest image showed a battlefield on a rocky moon. Smoke hung low in the air. Broken machines burned in the background, and in the center of the image stood Elias himself. It was him during his first off-world mission. His armor was damaged. His helmet was off. His face was covered in dirt and blood. His eyes focused and tired. He remembered that moment. He had been helping wounded civilians reach an evacuation point. He stared at the image, unable to breathe properly. "That's impossible," he whispered. He moved along the wall. Another image showed him inside a collapsed station, lifting debris with his bare hands. Another showed him sitting alone in a ship corridor, head down, hands shaking after combat. There were images from moments he never knew were recorded, moments no camera should have captured. None of the pictures were heroic poses. None showed him as a warrior standing tall. They showed exhaustion, pain, determination, and quiet resolve. They showed him as human. Elias felt exposed in a way he never had before. "Why are these here?" he asked the empty room. A soft sound came from behind him. The door closed. Elias spun around, his hand moving toward the small defense tool at his side. He stopped when he saw who stood there. She was tall, taller than most humans, with skin that shimmered like pale silver under the light. Her eyes were large and glowing softly, filled with intelligence and calm. Elegant markings flowed across her face and arms, like living starlight. She wore no armor. Her clothing was simple, but clearly royal. The Valerian princess. Elias dropped his hand immediately and lowered his head. "I'm sorry," he said quickly. "I didn't know this was a private area. I'll leave right now." The princess studied him in silence. Her gaze was not angry. It was curious, focused. "You entered without fear," she said slowly, her voice smooth and clear in translated form. "Yet now, your heart races." Elias swallowed. "I made a mistake. I didn't mean to intrude." "You did not mean to," she repeated. "Yet you are here." She walked past him, her movements calm, almost graceful. Elias stayed perfectly still, unsure if moving would make things worse. She stopped in front of one of the images, the one showing him lifting debris. "You do not see yourself as important," she said. "I'm not," Elias replied honestly. "I just do my job." The princess turned to look at him. "That is why you are important." Elias frowned slightly, confused. I don't understand. You will, she said. But first, tell me something. When your commanders ordered retreat on this day, why did you remain? She gestured to an image showing a ruined outpost. Elias remembered it clearly. There were people still inside, he said quietly. Leaving them didn't feel right. You were injured, she said. Yes. You risked death. Yes. Yet you stayed. Elias nodded. Someone had to. The princess was silent for a long moment. Then she said, Humans always say this. Elias looked up. Say what? Someone had to, she replied. You accept suffering not because you are commanded, but because you choose responsibility. Elias didn't know what to say. No alien had ever spoken to him like this before. I really shouldn't be here, he said after a moment. If the guards find me, they will not, the princess said calmly. This chamber is shielded. That made his stomach tighten. Why do you have these pictures? He asked, finally voicing the question burning in his chest. The princess walked to the center of the room. The images shifted slightly, responding to her presence. My people observe the galaxy, she said. We study patterns. We calculate survival. Survival? Elias echoed. Yes. Most civilizations expand, grow comfortable, and then fail when reality changes. They cannot adapt fast enough. She looked at him again. Humans adapt. Elias shook his head slightly. We fail all the time. You fail, she agreed. And then you stand again. She gestured toward another image. One that showed Elias sitting alone after a mission, his face buried in his hands. This moment, she said. You lost 3 companions. Elias's throat tightened. He remembered their names. He remembered blaming himself. I almost quit after that, he admitted. But you did not. No. Why? Elias took a deep breath. Because if I quit, then everything they did would feel wasted. The princess's eyes brightened slightly. This is why the galaxy watches you, she said. Before Elias could respond, a low vibration passed through the room. The lights dimmed slightly. Alarms. Not loud, controlled, but unmistakable. Elias stiffened. They know I'm here. Yes, the princess said. Certain members of the court do not approve of my studies. That's not good for me, is it? She looked at him thoughtfully. That depends on what happens next. The door remained closed. Outside, faint footsteps echoed through the corridor. Elias felt fear rising, but beneath it was something else. Determination. The same feeling he had on battlefields and broken stations. I don't want to cause trouble, he said. If you let me explain, you will explain, the princess said gently, but not as a criminal. She moved closer to him. You entered this room by accident, she continued. But you are here because the galaxy has already noticed you. Elias stared at her, overwhelmed. I'm just one human, he said. The princess smiled, just slightly. That, she said, is what makes this interesting. The footsteps outside grew closer, and the lights along the walls began to glow brighter. Elias realized that this single mistake, one wrong door, had changed everything, and he had no idea what the next moment would bring. The guards did not enter the room. They stopped outside. Their presence felt more than heard. The soft glow of the walls shifted again, reacting to tension. Elias stood still, his mind racing. He was inside the private chamber of a Valerian princess, surrounded by images of his own life, while palace alarms whispered danger beyond the door. The princess raised one hand slightly. The light dimmed further, and the room seemed to sink into silence. They will wait, she said calmly. They respect my authority, even if they question my choices. Elias let out a slow breath he did not realize he was holding. That's good, he said, because I really don't want to be dragged out of here. The princess looked at him with curiosity again. You fear punishment, yet you remain composed. I've been in worse places. Elias replied honestly. This is just confusing. She accepted that answer with a small nod. Come, she said. You deserve understanding, if you are to be involved. She moved toward a low platform near the center of the room. Elias hesitated, then followed. The floor responded to their steps, forming simple seats from smooth material. Elias sat carefully, his posture stiff. The princess sat opposite him, her movements controlled and graceful. "My name," she said, "is Seralith." "Elias," he replied. "Just Elias." "There is no just about you," Seralith said. "But we will speak plainly." She lifted her hand again. The images on the walls changed. They no longer showed only Elias. Now they showed charts, star maps, and faint lines of light connecting distant systems. "My people do not rule through force alone," she explained. "We rule through foresight." Elias leaned forward slightly despite himself. "You see the future?" "We calculate possibilities," Seralith corrected. "Every action creates branches. Most species follow predictable paths. Comfort leads to stagnation. Stagnation leads to collapse." The maps shifted. Entire civilizations faded into darkness. "Your species," she continued, "does not follow a single path." Elias frowned. "That doesn't sound like a good thing." "It terrifies many," Seralith said. "Humans fail in ways others do not. You break rules, ignore expectations, and rebuild from ruins." She paused, watching him carefully. "You adapt faster than logic predicts." Elias looked at the fading star maps. "We fight among ourselves a lot." "Yes," Seralith said. "Yet when faced with extinction, you unite." Another image appeared. A human ship shielding alien refugees. A medical station where humans worked alongside species that once considered them inferior. Elias recognized some of the events. Others were new to him. "You study us closely," he said. "For decades," Seralith replied, quietly. "That feels uncomfortable." "That is understandable." She did not deny it. Elias sighed. "So why me? There are millions of humans. Braver ones, smarter ones." Seralith's eyes softened slightly. "Because you represent a pattern," she said. "Not leadership by power, but leadership by refusal." "Refusal? You refuse to abandon," she explained. "Even when retreat is logical. Even when survival suggests withdrawal." She brought up the image of the ruined outpost again. "This choice," she said, "appears again and again in human history. But it is rare for individuals to act on it without orders." Elias looked down at his hands. "I didn't think about history. I just didn't want people to die." "That is precisely the point," Seralith said. Outside the chamber, voices rose briefly, then quieted again. Elias felt the pressure of time. "What happens now?" he asked. Seralith stood. "Now," she said, "you will learn why some in my court fear humans." The walls shifted again, forming a projection of the Valerian High Council chamber. Tall figures stood in a circle, their forms rigid and their expressions sharp. "They believe humans are unstable," Seralith continued. "They see your adaptability as chaos." The projection focused on a council member with darker markings. "This one," she said, "has argued that humanity should be restricted, controlled, before you grow too influential." Elias felt a chill. "Controlled how?" Seralith did not answer immediately. "Observation," she said carefully. "Manipulation of trade. Limited expansion. Quiet pressure. That's not peaceful," Elias said. "No," she agreed. "It is cautious." Elias stood slowly. "My people won't accept that." "They may not be given a choice," Seralith replied. He met her gaze. "Then why tell me?" "Because," she said, "you walked into this room." Elias gave a short, humorless laugh. "That was an accident." "Accidents," Seralith said, "are often truth without intention." She stepped closer. "My people predict a convergence," she said softly. "A force moving through the outer dark. It does not communicate. It does not negotiate." A new image appeared. Entire star systems dimmed, their light swallowed by an approaching shadow. "It erases," Seralith said. "Civilizations fall without understanding why." Elias swallowed. "And you think humans can stop it?" "I think humans can endure it," she replied, "and help others endure it." The alarms outside grew louder for a moment. A voice echoed faintly. calling Seralith's name. She ignored it. If I reveal too much, she said, I risk my position. If I reveal too little, the galaxy burns. Elias felt the weight of her words settle heavily on him. I'm not a leader, he said again. Seralith looked at him steadily. Neither were most humans when history demanded they stand. She reached out and touched one of the images on the wall. It changed to show Elias helping a wounded alien child during a rescue operation. You did not know this image existed, she said. Yet your action changed how my people saw yours. Elias felt something tighten in his chest. I didn't even think about it. That is your strength, Seralith said. The door to the chamber finally opened. 2 guards stood outside, tense but respectful. Princess, one said. The council requests your presence. Immediately, Seralith turned to Elias one last time. You will not be punished, she said. Not today. That's reassuring, Elias said quietly. But, she continued, you will not be forgotten. She straightened, her royal presence returning fully. Return to your ship, she said. Say nothing of this room. Elias nodded. And if someone asks why I was here, Seralith allowed herself a small, knowing smile. Tell them, she said, that you took a wrong turn. The guards stepped aside. Elias walked past them, his heart still racing. As the door closed behind him, Elias realized something unsettling. He had entered the palace as a technician. He was leaving as a variable in the future of the galaxy. And somewhere behind him, in a quiet room filled with human images, an alien princess was preparing to challenge the fate of stars because of one human who refused to walk away. Elias did not sleep after returning to the human ship. He lay on his narrow bunk, staring at the dim ceiling, replaying every word Seralith had spoken. The quiet hum of the ship felt louder than usual. He had followed her instructions and told no one about the room, the images, or the warning. Officially, his report stated that he had taken a wrong corridor and been redirected by palace security. Unofficially, nothing inside him felt normal anymore. By the next cycle, the atmosphere across the palace station had changed. Valerian guards moved more often through the corridors. Diplomatic meetings that were supposed to be slow and ceremonial were suddenly rushed. Human officers noticed it too, though they did not know why. Something was building, like pressure before a storm. Elias was repairing a sensor relay when a human officer approached him. You, she said. Elias Mercer. He looked up. Yes, you've been requested, she said carefully. By the Valerian High Council. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Me? Why? They didn't say, the officer replied. But when an alien empire asks politely, command says we answer. Elias powered down his tool and stood. As he followed her, he had a strong feeling that Seralith's warning had arrived sooner than expected. The council chamber was enormous, far larger than the projection Seralith had shown him. The ceiling rose high above, glowing faintly like a living sky. The council members stood in a wide circle, each one different in shape, height, and markings, but all carrying the same controlled authority. Seralith stood among them. She met Elias's eyes briefly. Her expression was calm, but there was tension beneath it. Elias was guided to the center of the chamber. He felt very small. This human stands accused of unauthorized presence in a restricted royal sector, one council member said, its voice layered and cold. And of influencing royal research. Elias swallowed. I didn't know where I was. I left when told. That is not in dispute, another council member said. What is in dispute is why the princess shielded you. All eyes turned to Seralith. He is relevant, she said simply. To what? The darker-marked council member asked. The same one Seralith had warned him about. To your obsession with humanity? To your obsession with humanity? Seralith did not flinch. To our survival. A low murmur passed through the chamber. The darker-marked council member turned back to Elias. You are aware that many species see humanity as unstable. Elias took a breath. Yes, you fight among yourselves. You break treaties. You destroy your own worlds. Yes, Elias said again. We've done terrible things. Then why? The council member asked. Should the galaxy trust you? And of you? If. Elias looked around the chamber. He felt fear, but also something steady beneath it. The same feeling he had felt when standing between danger and people who could not run. We don't ask for trust, he said. We earn it, slowly, sometimes badly. Several council members shifted. You are not defending your species, another said. I am, Elias replied. Just honestly. The darker-marked council member stepped forward. Honesty does not erase risk. No, Elias agreed. But pretending perfection does. Seralith watched him closely. The council chamber lights dimmed slightly. Princess Seralith, the council leader said. Present your evidence. Seralith raised her hand. The air filled with images. Not just of Elias, but of human history. Ships built from scrap. Cities rebuilt after disaster. Humans standing beside alien species during crises that others avoided. This is not dominance, Seralith said. This is persistence. The darker-marked council member interrupted. Persistence can be dangerous. Only if survival itself is a threat, Seralith replied. The images shifted again. Now they showed something else. A deep region of space. Silent. Empty. Then, stars went dark. Elias felt a chill. This force, Seralith said, has erased 3 civilizations already. Not through war, but through inevitability. It adapts faster than static societies. A council member spoke sharply. Why reveal this now? Because time is no longer a luxury, Seralith said. The darker-marked council member turned toward Elias again. And you believe humans are the answer? No, Seralith said before Elias could speak. I believe humans are the question the universe has not answered yet. The council chamber fell silent. Elias felt every eye on him. What do you want from me? He asked quietly. Seralith looked at him. I want you to speak as humans do. Not as leaders, not as conquerors, as survivors. Elias nodded slowly. He thought of ruined stations, of lost friends, of moments when giving up would have been easier. When things break, he said, we fix what we can. When we can't fix it, we build something new. Not because we're special. Because stopping feels worse. The darker-marked council member studied him. And if this force cannot be stopped, then we'll slow it, Elias said. And if we can't slow it, we'll help others get out of its way. That is not victory, the council member said. No, Elias replied. It's survival. Seralith stepped forward. This, she said, is why they matter. Before the council could respond, the chamber trembled. Not violently, just enough to be felt. A council aide rushed forward, speaking urgently in Valerian tones. The translator caught up a moment later. Princess. Counselors. Long-range sensors confirm contact. The anomaly has entered monitored space. The chamber erupted in controlled chaos. The darker-marked council member turned sharply. How long? Days, the aide replied. Perhaps less. All eyes turned to Seralith again. She did not hesitate. Begin evacuation planning. And open communication channels with human command. The darker-marked council member hesitated. You would involve them now? Yes, Seralith said firmly. Before fear decides for us. The council leader raised a hand. The human will remain under observation. Seralith nodded. Agreed. Elias exhaled slowly. He was not arrested. Not freed either. He was escorted back to the human ship. His status changed quietly from technician to liaison. Human command was confused at first, then concerned, then very serious. Elias stood in a briefing room, surrounded by officers who now looked at him differently. You spoke to the Valarian princess? One asked. Yes. And the council? Yes. And now, the commander said slowly, they're sharing threat data with us. Elias nodded. They think we can help. The commander studied him. Do you? Elias thought of Seralith's words, of the shadow moving through space. I think, he said, "We won't walk away." The room fell silent. Far beyond the palace station, something ancient and quiet continued to move. And for the first time, the galaxy was not watching humanity with curiosity or fear. It was watching with hope. The human fleet gathered at the edge of the system, ships of every type and size aligned under the combined command of human officers and Valerian advisors. Elias stood on the command deck of the flagship, staring at the star-streaked expanse ahead. He felt the same adrenaline he had felt on countless missions, but this was different. The stakes were larger than any single planet, any single species. The approaching threat was not like anything humanity or the Valerians had faced. It was silent, vast, and relentless. Sensor readings showed no life, no heat signatures, no energy emissions typical of ships or weapons. Only a moving shadow, swallowing light and space itself, advancing steadily toward inhabited systems. Elias turned to the Valerian princess, Seralith, who stood beside the observation deck. Her calm gaze reflected both hope and calculation. "Do you trust humans to lead this?" she asked quietly, not as a command but as an observation. Elias took a deep breath. "We survive," he said simply. "We don't give up. Even when the odds are impossible. That's what we do." Seralith studied him, as if measuring the weight of those words against the galaxy's fate. "Then lead," she said. "Not with weapons alone, but with decisions, with action. With the choices only your species can make." Elias nodded and turned to the officers on the bridge. He began issuing orders: set defensive grids along the vulnerable systems, assign medical and evacuation ships to the outer colonies, form observation points to track the anomaly's movement, and prepare teams to respond to emergencies anywhere it reaches. There was no time for hesitation. Every human on the bridge moved quickly, adapting to the unfamiliar alien technology, merging strategy with instinct. The Valarians provided guidance, but Elias noticed that it was the humans who improvised solutions, adjusted tactics on the fly, and made decisions that no algorithm could calculate. Hours passed, yet time felt compressed. The anomaly advanced, its shadow sweeping across monitored space, erasing energy signatures in a slow but undeniable march. Civilization after civilization beyond the edge of known systems had already vanished, leaving only darkness. Despite the pressure, Elias remained calm. He coordinated teams across the fleet, giving each the freedom to act, to innovate, to make choices that no one species alone could foresee. Human adaptability proved invaluable. One damaged sensor array was repaired with a combination of alien materials and human ingenuity. A failing communication relay was stabilized by combining Valerian algorithms with human improvisation. Small victories piled together like stones, forming a wall against the darkness. On the observation deck, Seralith watched silently, occasionally pointing out patterns in the anomaly's movement that the humans might have missed. Elias listened carefully, but did not dictate. Instead, he encouraged the teams to integrate the knowledge themselves, trusting their instincts and creativity. Then came the first direct encounter. A system on the outskirts of the fleet's perimeter was engulfed in darkness. The human and Valerian monitoring teams reported sudden disruptions, gravitational distortions that threatened to pull entire ships off course. Command teams scrambled, analyzing data, predicting the anomaly's next movement. Elias didn't wait for perfect solutions. "Deploy countermeasures now," he ordered. "Anchor stations with energy tethers. Use every available resource to stabilize the local space." Within minutes, fleets of human and Valerian ships worked in coordinated chaos. Human engineers recalibrated alien devices. Valerian pilots maneuvered with precision. Despite the overwhelming force of the anomaly, the system-held space remained intact, long enough for civilian evacuation and for a temporary shield to form. Elias exhaled and rubbed his temples. "It's working," he said quietly, "but only just." The anomaly continued its approach, moving faster than any natural phenomenon, yet slowed by the actions of humans and Valerians working together. Every system stabilized, every evacuation coordinated, became a testament to human resilience. The galaxy began to see something unexpected. That humanity's strength was not in weaponry or sheer numbers, but in persistence, improvisation, and the refusal to yield to impossible odds. As the fleet pressed forward, Elias coordinated a daring plan. The anomaly's core was moving toward a cluster of inhabited systems. There was no conventional way to stop it. Conventional strategies failed because the anomaly adapted to predictable actions. But humans did not rely on predictability. Elias proposed a decentralized strategy. Every ship and station would act independently, making decisions on the ground, trusting in observation, intelligence, and quick thinking. Split into autonomous units, he said. Observe. Predict. Act. No one unit waits for orders. Every decision counts. Sarilith raised an eyebrow but nodded. This is exactly the type of choice humans excel at, she said. What followed was a frantic, coordinated effort across thousands of ships and stations. Humans and Valerians operated together, constantly adjusting their actions. Ships diverted gravitational currents, used alien energy fields in unexpected ways, and created temporary safe zones for populations. The anomaly struck again and again, but humans adapted faster than it could consume. When one system fell, humans immediately stabilized another, learning, adjusting, and sharing knowledge across the fleet. Elias felt a strange pride. Humans were not invincible. Ships were damaged. Colonies lost communication. Yet for every loss, humans found a way to mitigate further destruction. They did not give up. They adapted, solved, and acted. Every life saved reinforced the chain of resilience. During one critical moment, a large human ship was trapped in a gravitational surge from the anomaly. Sensors indicated it would be pulled apart. Elias coordinated a last-minute rescue. By combining alien propulsion technology with human improvisation, the ship was pulled to safety. Its crew alive, though shaken. He watched the crew step onto the observation deck, exhausted but alive, and felt something swell within him. This was why humans endured. As the fleet continued its efforts, communication lines lit up with messages of cooperation. Humans guided alien species. Aliens protected human engineers. And together, they formed a lattice of survival strategies. The anomaly, once unstoppable, was now impeded, slowed, and frustrated by the collective ingenuity of multiple species led by human adaptability. By the final hours, the anomaly had reached the central systems, the very heart of inhabited space. Elias coordinated the last wave of actions. Humans moved in precise but flexible patterns. Valarians provided energy support and analysis. Every move was unpredictable to the anomaly, every action improvised, every solution a product of human intuition. Then, slowly, the shadow receded. Systems once on the verge of collapse stabilized. Energy patterns returned. Light spread across star systems that had nearly gone dark. Humanity's methods, choice, resilience, improvisation, had preserved life where conventional power could not. Elias stood on the observation deck, exhausted but steady. Sarilith approached him, her expression a mix of relief and admiration. "You were right," she said. "Humans do not dominate by force. They endure. They survive. And they help others endure as well." Elias nodded, staring at the fleet that now glimmered across space, battered but unbroken. "We do what we must," he said simply. "Because standing still is worse than failing." The princess smiled faintly. "And for that, the galaxy watches differently now. Across the stars, civilizations once doubtful of humanity's strength now recognize the quiet power of persistence, cooperation, and courage. The human fleet had not conquered. They had survived. They had adapted. And in doing so, they had inspired hope across alien empires that had long thought they understood the rules of the universe. Elias returned to the palace station with Sarilith at his side. The private room, the one filled with human images, remained untouched. A silent reminder of the path that had led here. The pictures of his life, moments of perseverance and quiet heroism, were no longer a secret. They symbolized the principle that had guided humans across centuries: survival through action, intelligence, and the refusal to yield. Serelith gestured toward the walls. "Your images remain," she said. "Not as trophies, but as lessons." Elias looked at them, now joined by new images. Humans and Valerians working together, civilians saved, the anomaly's shadow receding. "We didn't do this alone," he said. "Every choice mattered, and every choice will matter in the future," Serelith replied. "The galaxy will remember, and others will follow." Elias understood. This was not the end of threats, not the end of challenges, but it was proof that humanity, unpredictable, resilient, and brave, could rise to face the unimaginable. As he left the room, the princess watched him with quiet pride. Outside, the stars of the galaxy shone again, undimmed, alive. Humanity had endured. Humanity had led. Humanity had become a force not through conquest, but through courage, wisdom, and action. And somewhere, far beyond the visible stars, the galaxy learned to hope because humans refused to give up. Elias took a deep breath, ready for the next challenge, knowing that humans would face it as they always had together, adaptable and unbroken.